and Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Farooq, who has, I'm sure, is very disappointed today because I had committed to him long time back that I shall attend in-person IPO summit, and he was gracious to schedule it on a Saturday because we thought I would be able to take off on Friday night to be there with you all. Unfortunately, that was not possible because of the last minute engagements that were brought to my knowledge. But, I hope this would be a bit of a compensation for my absence. But I sincerely apologize to all the colleagues of the PSX, as well as all the colleagues from the capital market, that we were able to fix a date and could not adhere to our commitments, such as life in Islamabad, as some of you may know. So obviously, this summit preparations and its technicalities and the hard work that has been done has been led by principally our managing director of the PSX with some of his colleagues. So my tribute to them. And this is building on a lot of events that have taken place in the last few months. And I have to thank Chairperson of SECP, who has been a great partner in development for Ministry of Finance. We do not regulate the regulator. We work in partnership with the regulators. And I must confess, this is the most unprecedented and delightful partnership for me with this SECP chair. He has not only worked with me on the capital market, his major domain, but he has worked in virtually every segment of the reform area, given his broader abilities. I have to further add that he has been already as big a champion on the insurance market as I have been very compassionate for almost the day I landed in Pakistan. Liquidity is the name of the game for this market, whether we are going for IPOs or secondary trading or any other thing to boost these markets. We have formed a working group on that front, but unfortunately, given commitments of my colleagues, thus far, we have not been able to convene a meeting, but we have already started an engagement in the Ministry of Finance with the leadership of the SECP chair, and you have already witnessed some of these events. I have to also mention that we have had an engagement with the Asian Development Bank to continue its engagement in the insurance market policy, legal, and regulatory framework reforms. I say that upfront because it's a critical puzzle for even the IPOs, not to mention the overall capital markets. So let me make my first point. Restoring confidence in the economy and markets in the past few months has been very rewarding, not only for me personally, but for all my colleagues who are well-wishers of Pakistan and are not anti-reforms. The government and market leaders have availed this opportunity to build on past policy and institutional reforms of stock market capitalization. Despite challenges, there has been significant progress in macroeconomic, exchange rate, and financial stability. Growth is to rebound to positive trajectory in the range of 2 to 2.5%, with agriculture expected to grow by 5.6%, with crops leading the path, and industry by 2.5% this fiscal year. Strong revenue performance in the first half of the year, despite the FBR engaged right now in struggle to launch additional reforms, we have managed to hit and will manage to hit probably 10 trillion, if not 9.4. Restraints and rationalization of federal spending will generate primary surplus and substantial deficit on current account itself has turned to a surplus thus far. Of course, as we exit, I hope the last quarter does not create complications for the current account. Unless and until you have two of these accounts manageable, the fiscal and current account, we will not be able to reduce the interest rates. Although not in my hands, it's with State Bank, but my colleagues in the State Bank are also now conscious of the fact that we will have to move to lower the interest rates subject to inflation coming down, subject to our both the critical domestic as well as the external accounts being manageable. Why do I mention all this? It's because capital markets cannot thrive under very high interest rates. With realization of the quick disbursements of multilateral flows, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, AIIB, these multilateral flows have been also enhanced by the second tranche. The foreign exchange, together with these support, have reached $9.1 billion from the lows of $4 billion at the beginning of our term. All efforts have been underway to rationalize pricing structure of utilities and improve cost recovery of utility companies through, among others, control of theft and other things. Foundations have been laid for attracting foreign direct investment that will pay high dividends moving forward to the incoming governments. The economic recovery process has bolstered business confidence and market sentiment. PSX index has exhibited a bullish momentum over the last 5 months of 2023 by more than 50%. Foreign portfolio investors' inflows have also increased. You're much closer to these dynamics than I am in Islamabad, but I thank you all for achieving these heights, and I thank you for your commitment to move forward with further reforms as well as taking these markets to new heights. I think I cannot set the scene unless and until I give a word on global markets and IPO trends. As you may know, being from this fraternity, that the post-pandemic era has witnessed a tectonic shift in the IPO's landscape. While 2021 thrived on record-breaking activity, 2023 saw a recalibration with deal volume slipping and proceeds shrinking. Record high inflation and the calibrated global central bank responses have led to significant tightening of the global liquidity conditions. There have been a lot of global complications that have impacted us negatively and our markets. For years, the North American IPO scene dominated, but the tide is turning. Asia Pacific now reigns supreme, accounting for over half the global deals and nearly half the proceeds. China, Japan, and Southeast Asia lead the charge today, fueled by tech-driven innovation and budget investor interest. We could follow their lead. there's nothing stopping us. But we have to get out of the mindset of bank driven financing, which is creating a huge incentive and noise in the financial market, not allowing for diversification of our financial markets, not allowing for our banking system to lend effectively to the private markets. Our private credit is stifled because of old style, obsessive, non transparent lending. We, as capital markets, globally and domestically, believe in transparency, effective governance, full disclosures, fighting the anti money laundering dimensions. What else can we do for service of Pakistan? We scrutinize the issuers and investors, and we are proud of that because it will give them long term sustainability. These trying to do little gimmicks, playing little gimmicks, globally or domestically, to raise resources from backdoor is not the way forward for countries that have bigger development visions. While technology once ruled the IPO roost, new challenges are emerging today. Healthcare, consumer staples, and renewable energy are attracting investor attention, reflecting changing priorities and market dynamics. ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors are no longer afterthoughts, but deal makers. Investors increasingly seek companies aligned with sustainable practices, creating opportunities for businesses showcasing strong ESG commitments. Join the bandwagon of ESG and attract the flows into your IPOs would be my message to you. While mega IPOs at the global level once captured the headlines, smaller companies are finding their footing. Microcap and nanocap offerings are gaining traction, catering to niche markets and attracting specialized investors. Move forward, embrace this wave. Don't stand on the sidelines and stick to the old practices, please. Regulatory waters are constantly in flux. New accounting standards, stricter listing requirements, increased scrutiny on data privacy can impact IPO timelines and valuations. Adaptability and a proactive approach are key to navigating these regulatory undercurrents. I have to say, I haven't found my industry and my country to be lacking the know how and the commitment to move forward. But we need to fast track our development, and that can only come if we embrace innovation technology with open arms. Let me move from global to the domestic, i.e., the PSX and IPO trends. In the first half of the calendar year, as you know, Karachi Stock Exchange Index went up by only 3% in rupee terms and 19% down in US dollar terms. However, with the interim setups, tough yet necessary reforms whose results you are witnessing today, the same index in the second half of 2023 witnessed around 50% return in both US dollar and rupee terms, shows you the power of how we can fix this country. True potential of the stock market can only be realized when we enhance the retail investor base. Though we have increased accessibility to electronic transactions through telco banking models, active retail PSX investors have unfortunately remained around 200,000 thus far. Kindly wake up from this slumber and move forward to deepen our markets. We have done what is within our domain, which means Ministry of Finance and SECP, among various measures to increase the appeal for retail investors. IPOs play an imperative and instrumental role. But due to challenging times on economic front, we at PSX only witnessed one single IPO in 2023. We were all very disappointed, starting from the MD to the board and everybody. But there also we were only able to raise 435 million. Come on, this is an economy with huge scope. We will be able to kill the undocumented and informal economy should we start documenting them through IPOs. The one single IPO was really the lowest that we have raised in 15 years of PSX history. And I have walked and ran with PSX through my entire career in one form or the other. You can imagine how disappointing and disheartening it would be for Farrokh, myself, and the SECP chair. Now, the prudent approach to monetary and fiscal policies, despite pressures, have boosted market sentiments. So run with it. This is reflected today in the market yields with benchmark lending rate, 6-month GIBOR, down from a peak of near 25% in September 2023, just when we stepped in our chairs. It is down from 25% to 21%, almost at 1-year low, whereas T-bill yield fell below the policy rate in the last auction. And everybody asked me, how did we do it? Teamwork between Stock Exchange, SECP, and Ministry of Finance, not known to be working closely with the markets. So we changed the scene. What are the other important factors? Reduction in money supply, surplus in the balance of payments, higher remittances, a movement towards rise of exports, successful execution of IMF program with no noise, all of which, if it happened again and again, would pave the way to set the economy on the right path. You set the economy on right path and markets thrive. I have to say there's a lot of potential in the markets if we stop interfering in the markets but build investor confidence. We have raised the bar through issuance of Ijara Sukuk, and manifestation is what we have achieved in the cuts at the auction. Our maiden auction in PSX history will always be remembered. It was oversubscribed by 16 times. You mobilize IPOs, you will be oversubscribed. That was not just the government achievement, but a milestone achieved through collaboration of all stakeholders to achieve mutually beneficial milestone with a win-win situation for both borrowers as well as investors. We have notified quarterly auction calendar for the primary auction of the Ijara Sukuk to be held through capital market infrastructure institutions. With regard to IPO process, as was mentioned by Chairperson of SECP. We have supported considerable market improvement like IPO provision that Farooq mentioned, fast-tracking approvals through new shorter processing, 14 days limit for granting regulatory approval, coupled with 15 days window for PSX to complete entire post-approval procedure. Behind the scene, I had a brief chat with SECP Chair and MD. SECP Chair acted upon it and through collaboration of the MD achieved this 40 days limit. This is the power of collaborative work. It's not about just working in our silos. Never works. No egos can stand in the way of reforms. The positive ripple effects of IPOs, trust me, will bolster our investments, raise the number of investors, foster jobs, have a breakthrough in sustainable development where we have regressed, and there are many other benefits. You don't have to be hostage to 23% plus SkyBoard interest rates of the banking system. The success of our IPOs resonate not only within our borders, but also on the global stage, elevating Pakistan's standards in the international financial markets. Look forward to learning from our colleagues and from experts on technical and market dynamics of IPO domestically and international players. I had promised Farooq that I would stay the whole day if I was in Karachi. And I will stay here and also work on my computer on my next meeting that I have to prepare diligently. We understand that lower cost and availability of capital are essential consideration to our moving forward competitively, pushing our export, pushing our industrial development, our infrastructure development, because that's the way to raise competitive funding. Of course, IPOs could be a little more pain than you walking into a bank branch and saying, you have my record, so just lend me another few billions. But once you raise the IPO, the door is open. Your name is out there, domestically and in international market, because we are breaking new frontiers through this summit, hopefully. To conclude, going forward, post-election, we would be keen to work with private sector to get government support under new leadership for similar initiatives and for issuance of IPOs down the lane. Stock markets are at the end of the day more and relatively cheaper avenue. And that's why I say always in every difficult conversation that there is no gain to the initial pain. So if initially IPOs are a pain, long term they are going to bring gains to you. To raise capital, then the addicted bank financing. Why do I say that? I'm more worried about the government too, because the government is stressing out the banking system. And I don't want all of us to crowd out the banking system. We unfortunately have already paid a heavy price of crowding out because our industry is hurt in terms of getting competitive credits. Also, my definition of IPO is not restricted to equity securities. I also like to see all stakeholders to come together for facilitation of corporate debt securities issuance through PSX instead of privately placed TFCs, the term finance certificates. I am perplexed why our own local household brands like Shan, Dalda, and many others, I don't want to single them out, are still off the PSX counter. I was with the shareholders of Dalda on a plane, and all I did was to convince them to now move forward in getting onto the PSX counter. In fifth populous country, an index with few hundred companies on stock exchange is not justified, as no nation has achieved economic prosperity in modern times which doesn't have dynamic issuers and investors and other capital market players. We have already taken and are pursuing major steps to address some of our public sector endemic issues. I would spend a full day listing those out, but let me spare you those because it's all over the newspapers and in everybody's commentary. I have to say, we have a huge government liabilities haunting us. So why further depend on the governments and banks? Go for new issuance. Really unlock yourself from past practices and planning. All of this would pave way to attract many E&P related companies for listing. At the end, let me profusely thank Managing Director as well as all the team of Stock Exchange for partnering with all of us to launch this unprecedented summit. I have to thank SECP Chair for holding our hands and making us walk through this and navigating through the regulatory issues. And I thank most of all our brokerage community, our investment bankers, and the banks, because without them, we will not be able to pave way to attract many E&P related companies for listing. We don't work in isolation as PSX. We are holding hands with CDC, with NCCPL, as well as with the PMEX, which will soon become a much more dynamic platform. So thank you for being there. Thank you for hearing us all at the beginning. And thank you for hopefully now taking the market forward at a fast pace. Run and we will be behind you. Thank you.